Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate it. My name is Eric Morton. My company is Future Creative Designs. And what we do is we develop new products and services that I'm sure you all are using. The new technology that comes out, your cell phones, email, all these things were not here at one point in time. Some of us can remember that. So I just want to tell you how important it is to have these new products and services. And what we do is develop them for you. So keep that in mind. Now, you've got a great idea. Now what? What do? First thing you should do is you should document your idea with a journal. How many ever heard of a diary? What is a diary? What were they made of? They were bound in the back. The reason why you want to use a bound binder for a journal, so you can't add or take pages out. Because when you go to court, because someone infringes on that, you have proof that you have it in binder and you can date it. So you want to get you a bound notebook with pages that's numbered. You want to write on it, start from one side all the way to the other, fill in all the spaces so they can't say you went back at a later date and added something here and there. You want to talk about it in your diary, who you're going to market to. You're going to talk about in there who you're selling, who's supplying it, who would help you market it, how you would market it, who your competition is. You want to speak about all these different aspects of your product. And if you still think it's good, you go to the next step, which is you got to be sure that it's really new. You got to do that. How do you do that? You go start doing searching on the internet using the search engines. Check them out and see. Don't just look for your idea by name because they might not have named it the same thing you did. Look at the problem that it solves and what it serves. Look at the competition that you see out there. You say, oh, I made that. It's better than them. Yeah, check where they're selling and go out and ask people about it. You don't have to tell them what you're doing. That's your research for the ground floor. You can do this yourself. And if you still are getting satisfied saying, man, I still don't see it, the next thing you go with is what? If you want to, you contact a patent attorney and say, you know what? I want you to do a patent search for me. But you also can use the internet. You also can use Georgia Tech as a depository that you can go over and look at patents and all these types of things on inventions. Okay? Everybody with me so far? Okay? Now, what have we done? We've documented. Now we want to get identified that it's still anonymous. You still want to move forward? Let's go with now protection of it. You more often than not want to start off with a non-disclosure document. Basically a simple agreement basically stating that that person that you're in agreement with agrees to keep all your information about what you're doing confidential. They won't tell anybody. They won't copy anything you give them. They won't repeat it, but they keep it confidential. So it's a non-disclosure agreement. They won't disclose anything about what you're working on. And you'll need those specifically when you get ready to deal with a lot of your companies and suppliers that will help you put it together. Because too often times we don't want to do the business part, and that's the time people find out later on they need to. You got to do some protection. Then, if you still want to go on, you do have what they call patents. You do have what they call copyrights. You even have what they call trade secret. An example of your basic copyright are basically protecting your literary property such as your songs. Your brother, he'll tell you, you need that. You need your copyrights for your music. You need it for your scripts. You need it for your slogans to help to join it with your branding. You need it for all that. That's your copyright. Now, patent, I'm gonna hit you with a good one here. Have you all ever seen the commercial with Bank of America talking about if you round it up, you'll take it out of there and put it into your savings account? That's a service they actually filed a patent for. It's a service. So you can patent services as well. And you notice a lot of the other banks, what that means is those banks better not come in and say, okay, we want you to round it up and take it over there and put it in savings, because then they will be infringing on it. But that's not to say that they can't come up with their own things. So we've got that. We've got copyright. We've got patent. Now you want to go with trade secret. Can anybody guess right now probably the most well-known company's trade secret in the world is who? Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. Why is that? Because they've kept it a secret for all of these years. That's why. And it's still powerful. And believe me, if you figured it out, you know when you figured out what Coke is made of, you literally can go and get that patent. But you probably won't, because there's probably some processes that they use as well. Also, their color red. There is a Coca-Cola red that they have a copyright on. Their Coca-Cola red is a color that they came up with, they developed, it's theirs. So they do have a copyright on that color. Next I want to get down to, you got to protect it now. What do you do now? You've got to look at the market in all types of ways. Who are you competing with out there? What's the buyer's mindset? When do they buy? How often do they buy? Will they buy your product? Is your product sensitive to the market? You've got to make all of these considerations. Still got that good idea? Still get ready? So your next move is now what? You're going to decide to go into business or not. That's your first thought. Well, should I go in business by myself? Benefits is I keep all the profits, I do it. I have to put the business together to come out here. That's what a lot of us are doing. And you should think about that. But you also consider doing a joint venture. Doing a joint venture with another company that can penetrate the markets better than you are, and probably are better capitalized than you are. So think about that as another alternative. And then you may come up and say, you know what? I'm an outright seller. Come up with it, I've looked at it, I've looked at the market, come up, I want to sell. That's still an option. But then you also have an option of licensing the product, meaning that you have given other people permission to put it out on the market. Has anybody ever seen the NFL games and seen the little camera flying around over the stadium? A 16-year-old came up with that. Well, he was 16 when he started. And if you notice, there's different companies that does that have it over there. That's been licensed out to different companies to use. He gets paid every time a company decides they want to do it. So he gets paid every, and you can do the same thing with yours. Next, you want to come up with your competition. Now, you've got direct competition and you have indirect competition. Because a lot of us say, yeah, I had it, nobody else has it out there. That's true. But unless you're doing transports to the moon, you've got some competition more than likely. It may not be direct. For example, Ford and Honda are in direct competition in the automotive industry. Why? They both are selling automobiles. Direct competition. Believe it or not, Rolex and Bentleys are after the same market. Why is that? They're after that high net worth income person that has a lot of disposable income. So you understand your market. It's not the direct. Indirectly, they're after the same people. If you want to spend $250,000 on a Rolex or spend $250,000 on a Bentley, they are both after the same market. They're not in direct competition, but they're in the same they're in competition indirectly with one another. And then you want to look at your options again. Now, you've got all of that. You decided, okay, now what's going to happen? I still want to move forward. Got to get ready to show it. Somebody's going to have to see it. You can't be scared to go out there with it once you've got your proper protection. I'll give you an example of what you need. If you have things such as clothes, this is a product that I worked on with about 6-7 years ago. Has anybody ever seen that? What is that? What country is that? USA. This was an idea we were working on about 7 years ago. It's a product, and this is a sample. You can see that what that is what a tennis shoe, right? You've got to get ready to show it to somebody before you come out with it. Listen to me, this is a 3D printed model. They have new technology I call 3D print. It uses the same type of technology you have with your inkjets. It prints little droplets of material, it bonds together, and notice that's a moving part. All of that was printed. That's how you come out with your new prototypes. Then you have, you have to look at that, pass around what you look at, that's moving. Then you have basically your high graphics presentations that you do. You want to have it clear rendering so that you can explain what the product does, how the user is going to use it, what this end user is going to use it, how is a business going to use it, how it's going to identify with it. This is what you have to do when you show people. You want to have it to say, hey, guys, how can we market that? Well, they didn't know what I was talking about over the phone. Put it in front of them. Oh, I see, now I get it. That's why you want to make sure your prototypes, your samples, your 3D printed models are there, because you're going to have to show that big idea to somebody. And if you're too scared to do that, please believe me, you're going to die with that idea. Because I'm going to tell you, some of the best ideas, guess where they are at? In people's head, walking around scared. Trust me, they're out there. They really are. So now you've got that. We've gone that far and said, okay, we're ready to show them. Now you've got to consider the financial considerations of it. What can you do to finance this? One you can do is self-financing through your own 401ks, your own savings, your own credit cards and whatnot. Not necessarily the best way to go, but you can do that for your business, for your idea. But you also have to make sure you've got a business model for that, okay? Next, you can do You can go after traditional loans to see if someone will give you a loan based on your business model, your concept. But you've got to have your business plan tight. And people, don't skip on your business plan. Because if you don't have a business plan, you plan to fail. Because nobody's going to let you walk in there and they're going to ask you 3 or 4 questions and you can't answer. Guess what? They'll see you later. You've got to do your research on your business plan for your finances. Then you may have what, like I said, a joint venture. Partnership with somebody who has more funds than you. Partner with them. Use their resources in there. Yeah, you're going to have to share profits, but the thing is, you still get your idea out there. You also have what you have called venture capitalists. Venture capitalists, normally these are high net worth people who have a lot of money and are trying to basically double it, make more money off of it. They will invest in your business. They also will probably help you with management to very strongly look at your people you have on your team. You cannot do most of these products alone if you're coming up with it, especially when you're looking at processes that are already out there. So venture capitalists, you would have to have for them a strong management team. And that's more so for all of them, a strong management team, meaning that you don't have to be the engineer. You don't have to be an artist. You have to find the people to work with you to do what you're going to do with your business plan. So venture capitalists is another way you can fund it. Then I'd like to talk about the angel investors. And angel investors are normally high net worth individuals that have decided that, you know what, I like the business model you've shown. I'm going to invest, here's some money. They're not going to hassle you the way the venture capitalists are. The venture capitalist guys, trust me, they may muscle in and even have it set up to where if you screw up, they'll take over your company. They have the money. Guess what? He who has the money makes the rules. It is just a fact of life. People think it's up to you to make it happen. It's really not up to anybody else. If they believe, more than better. But it's really up to you to make it happen for what it is. So remember, angel investors are people who believe in it. They're not going to come in and muscle it. They're not going to say, oh my God, you need to be making X amount of dollars, but you need to keep them updated. And they will fund it. But then I like what they have that started basically the .com boom. These people were raising a lot of money. How were they doing it? They were selling what they call a private placement. Private placement regulation form D is what it is. What this is a method to use to get you so that you can raise up to $5 million in the 505 regulation D. I think in the 507 up to $10 million. And you do not have to necessarily report these to the Securities Exchange, but you have some guidelines. And they're called Private Placement Regulation Form D. Look it up. You can look it up. It's there. This allows you to raise money for your company. Basically, what you're saying is you've decided to say, hey, I've got some people, I believe in it, I want them to invest in this on the ground floor before I go public. I want to be able to offer them some shares of the company because that's what they want to do. And this is fine. This is what Google did. Google actually, they were living over this lady's garage or in her house. Now imagine they gave her, I believe it was about 100,000 shares. I may be wrong, but just imagine had they gave her 10,000 shares. When they went public, what was her value if she had 10,000 shares of stock? It went up to like $200 when it opened. So you figure out the math on that. That's what you have to do. A private placement is an excellent way to raise financing for your business. And then in closing, I just want to say, do your research on your product, do your research on the market, do your research on your team, do your research on your equipment. You cannot do too much research on what you're doing. And set up strong business models so that you can follow this plan to help you do it, because it is not easy launching products. But remember, an invention is not necessarily the greatest thing. It's really the innovation. For example, anybody ever heard of Netflix? Netflix wasn't even on the map, 7 years ago? You know what they caused? Hollywood Video, gone. Big Boys Blockbuster, we got to change how we do business. Why? Because somebody was smart enough to say, I'm going to take advantage of the internet. They forced a giant to say, you will do business like this. That's like your daily life right there. You can be that innovative person to do that. It's not always, I've got to have the best inventions. For example, anybody ever heard of Segway? The little two-way chariot that you see the ambassador of Atlanta riding around on? That little chariot? What's more innovative, that or a person who came in with the diaper? I'm talking about the disposable diaper, because they were cloth years ago, right? We remember those. Some of us remember those, right? So which one really impacted the world? Segway or the diaper? The diaper did. It touched a heck of a lot more lives, a lot more people use them, and it's still out there now about it. So Segway, great invention, not innovative enough to touch a lot of people. You can have an idea, and I'm sure you do. So unless, Frank, you got more time, I just want to leave you guys with that. Do your research, do your research, do your research, and don't be scared. These manufacturers do not want to risk your little bitty butt coming up talking about they're going to steal my idea. Trust me, they don't want you saying that because, yeah, it does look bad. It looks like big old giant picking on little old you. So trust me, a lot of companies won't touch you because they believe they spend a lot of time on research and development. They don't want to be accused of taking it because there's a good chance they're paying somebody to come up with something of what you did, and they don't want a conflict. So a lot of companies won't touch you. So think about what you're doing with your big idea. Keep them going because you can innovate, you can change, and impact the world where a lot of these big groups